Now let's discuss the superconsciousness. It is the godly realm. And in meditation, we soar into its endless skies. It is from there that wisdom descends. It is from there that inspiration strikes the heart. In the superconsciousness, we are suffused with energy from the source. So that's why I said the nice. You remember nice? So newness, inspiration, clarity, and energy. In meditation, our awareness expands through the superconsciousness. At first, we may not have any experience of this at all. It is as if we are in a state of deep sleep. This is the first stage of samadhi. Please underline. It is as if like we are in deep sleep, not actually being in deep sleep. Gopal Krishna, please mark that. Not actually being in deep sleep. It is as if like, mark that word. Okay. So otherwise, if you misunderstand that point, every time you sit in meditation, go to deep sleep and say, I was in first stage of samadhi. Right? So it is as if we are in a state of deep sleep. This is the first stage of samadhi. But slowly we become familiar with the superconsciousness. We become aware of that state and gradually we gain command over it. Then is it still superconsciousness? What do you mean? I asked. When you are conscious of it, it is no longer above your conscious awareness. It has become your normal state of consciousness. So the superconsciousness is something that is always beyond. It is what you cannot access. What may be a normal state of conscious awareness for you may be a state of the superconsciousness for somebody else. So it's a relative term, so to say. So for somebody who is already expanded in conscious awareness, a certain state of consciousness might be normal for them. But for somebody else, it might be superconscious because they have not yet accessed it. They don't have access to it as yet. Does it make sense? It's a relative term. So superconsciousness is always that which is beyond. So it's a relative term, I said. Yes, he replied. You can also accelerate this process of moving into the superconscious state by using two supplemental processes called as point A meditation and point B cleaning. But these practices are best explained in person by a heartfulness trainer after we have become established in the essential heartfulness practices. So we don't start to talk about it in the first few years, first few months. After that, we gradually talk to them about it. We want them to first stabilize in the first three processes: the meditation, the cleaning, and the prayer. After that, we speak about it. In our journey, we also move beyond superconsciousness. In fact, we move beyond consciousness altogether. Consciousness is infinite, whether we are speaking of the subconscious or the superconscious. But that infinity is supported by another infinity, which we call as potentiality. So it's called as potentiality or the root of consciousness. Daji stood up and disappeared into his bedroom. A minute later, he returned with a book in hand, Efficacy of Raj Yoga, written by Babuji in 1944. Daji started to read. Consciousness is not our goal. It is only a toy for children to play with. We have to reach a point where consciousness itself assumes its true form, what it really ought to be. We have to make a search for the mother tincture from which medicines are actually prepared. So in olden days, there used to be a mother tincture, and they used to add different things to that mother tincture, and different medicines used to be formed. Okay, that is mother tincture. Like it's the base of all the other medicines. We are searching for the potentiality which creates the consciousness, and if that too is gone, then we find ourselves on the verge of true reality, pure and simple. This philosophy is too high to be described adequately in words. So from consciousness, you go to the potentiality of consciousness, and when that is also gone, you are now on the verge of true reality. So three stages. Okay. The entire journey from the first point up to the 13th point is through consciousness. The central region is the potentiality of the consciousness. Then as you near the center, then you are in the state of true reality. After you have crossed all the 7 rings of splendor in the central region, then you are now closer to reality. Because now you have crossed both the consciousness and the potentiality of the consciousness. Okay? Daji closed the book. Now, reality is another infinity that supports potentiality. So you see, our development covers a spectrum that moves from towards infinite subtlety. We begin with consciousness, move towards potentiality, eventually emerge into reality. And we must go beyond that too. So once we enter into the state of reality, we start experiencing real bliss. So that's another potential, infinite. Then we have to go beyond that real bliss also. Then what is there? Nobody knows. It's not described. So Babaji is now welcoming all of you to go there and describe what is there. Okay? But he welcomes you. So interesting. So this super consciousness is a relative concept. You remember that. Okay? So if a person has expanded in consciousness, that's what we learn from the other person. So one person who is expanded in the super consciousness will be able to impart that knowledge about that state of super consciousness to the other. But then eventually you still have to experience it. So first you gain knowledge, and through the practice of meditation you experience it, and then you make that your own. You master that particular aspect of super consciousness. And there are 4 levels of super consciousness that Babaji has described in Efficacy of Raja Yoga. The lowest level is at first point. The second level is at the 7th point. The third level is at the 10th point, and the fourth level is at the 13th point. So the 13th point is the highest level of super consciousness. First point is the lowest level of super consciousness. Then you have 2 other super consciousness in between. Okay.
So 1, 7,
1, 7,
13,
13.
12, 13,
10, 10.
10.
1,
Okay.
7, 10, 13. Okay.
Another question. While no, most of the time, not most of the time, sometime no, before in my experience, like no, before Daji gives a speech or something, uh, there are certain statements he makes which we actually come to know before he gives a speech. Is that a state of consciousness?
It is more exactly. You are like in tune with a certain level of consciousness. That's all it is. See, when two people are in the same vibrational state of the consciousness, same subtlety of consciousness, even if temporarily. So, what is going on at that level of consciousness is actually felt by the other person also beforehand, before it comes to the realm of the material world.
So you also mentioned up to 13th super consciousness is there. So is the identity of the person also exists till 13th point?
Identity will exist even up to the center.
Oh, okay. So still that identity will be there.
Yeah, yeah. Identity will be there till the end of Mahapralaya. Till Mahapralaya, it will be there. Identity will not go. So, irrespective of the person's spiritual journey, the identity will remain till Mahapralaya. Only at the time of Mahapralaya, the individual identities are lost into common identity. And then that common identity now becomes the basis for the next creation. Okay? It's like this that even if you are in a class, you all of us have one identity. But when we are in the class, we are just looked at as these are the children from such and such a class, 5th standard, 6th standard. Now, the common identity is what actually becomes important. The individual identity is no longer necessary. So, like for example, we might be in different parts of India, but our common identity is being Indian. But when you go down to the different levels, so you can then say that you are from Tamil Nadu, somebody is from Karnataka, somebody is from Kerala. So that is individual identity. But when you look at it from a slightly higher perspective, it becomes common identity. So now, just because you merge into the common identity, it doesn't mean to say that the individual identity is gone. You again take. That is why we are now talking about the Mahapralaya. It's only at the time of Mahapralaya, this is all gone. Everything is kind of wiped off. Then that common identity that still now manifests at the time of Mahapralaya now becomes the basis for the next creation. So when the next creation starts, so that's why we say Brahma has 100 years of life. Like humans have 100 years, Brahma also has 100 years.
So exactly, we don't know what is Mahapralaya. I think in Mahapralaya also there are different type of pralaya. Like in Bhagavatam, when Brahma completes 100, he goes to sleep. I think that is one set of Mahapralaya. And ultimately, the Almighty also has gotten a Mahapralaya, where even when Brahma goes to sleep, there is a pralaya, but still Almighty is active. Is still acting. So, what is exactly the Mahapralaya? Is it the Almighty or Brahma? Brahma going to sleep?
Mahapralaya is related to our creation here, our universe. So every Brahmanda has an end. The end of that particular Brahmanda is called as Mahapralaya. So we'll read about it when we come to that efficacy of Raja Yoga, where Babaji described it as how Brahmandas are formed. Why is it called as Brahmanda? And how are they formed? So when we read about that, we'll read about Mahapralaya. So every Brahmanda has its own end, and that end is called as Mahapralaya, dissolution. So if there is creation, there should automatically be dissolution also. They go hand in hand. You cannot just have creation all the time, right? So creation and dissolution are two processes which happen one after the other. Part of it is also there simultaneously. So somebody had asked the question about it in the past session. In one hand, yoga is talking about dissolution, and the other hand is talking about dissolution and creation together. What is it? So the best example that I could come to is it's like churning chutney. You put all the ingredients for the chutney, you turn on the mixer, right? Now each of the ingredient is now getting diluted, but they are not disappearing. They are now manifesting in a different form. So at every step of the way, there is dissolution and creation simultaneously. Even otherwise, even during our meditation, we undergo dissolution of ourself, but a newer self is now manifesting and taking over simultaneously. So they both are happening simultaneously. So when we are learning, we are letting go of our ignorant self, and we are now becoming known self. So they are both happening simultaneously. So when a light is brought into a dark room, the darkness is gone and the light is coming. Both are happening simultaneously. It's not like there is a pause between darkness going and the light coming. It happens simultaneously. So when you look at it from that perspective that there is a dissolution, we talk about it emphasizing that particular point. But in general, it's always a continuous process. As and when one disappears, the other one is already coming up. You remember one dictum of nature. Nature does not allow vacuum anywhere. That's one of the principles of nature. That's also the reason when our heart becomes empty, nature fills it with divine bliss. So our job is to make our heart empty. That's all. The feeling will happen automatically. Now, if you do not align towards the goal of divinity or reality, then nature will fill it with anything around. So suppose you are meditating and you are not very clear about the goal of meditation. There are many people who meditate without the goal of meditation. When they meditate, obviously the process of meditation empties the samskaras. However, now that emptiness, when they go out into the world, they get filled up with all the filth because not they are not in alignment to the divine or the reality. So that's why it's very, very important to be in alignment with the goal. When you are in alignment with the goal, the moment the vacuum is created in the heart, the divine rushes in and then fills it up. If you're not in alignment with the goal, then anything else outside, whatever is happening in the material world, can fill it up. So you clear the samskaras by meditating. Again, the moment you finish the meditation and go out, you fill it again back with a new set of samskaras. Okay, so that is what happens. So being in alignment with the goal is very important because that creates the opportunity that wherever we become vacuumized, whenever we become empty, automatically nature fills it with divine because that is our goal. Okay, so shall we continue now? How long to meditate? Before I began heartfulness, I used to meditate for precisely 20 minutes at a time. I would set an alarm and then sit with closed eyes until it rang. Perhaps I learned it from a meditation class that I had taken, where the instructor would ring a bell when meditation was over. When I started practicing meditation, heartfulness, I continued my habit of setting alarm for 20 minutes. However, that ring soon started to disturb me because it would come while I was still immersed in meditation. So I started setting the timer for 1 hour instead. But then I found that I would naturally come out of meditation exactly 5 minutes before the bell would ring. Soon it occurred to me that the timer was only interfering the process and I never used it again. I told Daji about these early experiences and he said, yes, it's too artificial to set any time limit in advance. In fact, we should never set any agenda in meditation. We shouldn't impose any conditions at all. We have to be open and in a state of wonder and curiosity. That's what Babaji writes. Daji has written wonder and unknowingness. Sometimes we might think we have to go to work soon, so let me meditate for 15 minutes. The giver knows your time constraints very well. Perhaps he would have finished your meditation in 30 seconds, but you are insisting on 15 minutes. Now, but in that case, I'm being more generous than the giver, I said. He needs 30 seconds, but I am allowing him 15 minutes. So Joshua Polak is now joking. I am giving time to the giver. You can take your time. You can do your work at leisure. Maybe, said Daji. But what do you think will happen in those 15 minutes? Instead of meditating on the endless, you will meditate on the time, on limitation. You will be constantly aware that you have to stand up in few minutes. You are focusing on the quantity of meditation rather than the quality. If there is no quality, is there any use in quantity? Sometimes when I meditate, I find that it's over very quickly, I said. At other times, an entire hour has gone by. What makes meditation complete? It is complete when you have hit a satisfactory level of the consciousness, said Daji. Babaji recommended 1 hour. When people complained, he reduced it to half an hour. But he said that 1 hour was best. He had observed that people often take a long time to reach a satisfactory depth in meditation. But don't run with this idea and say, okay, now I am going to meditate for 1 hour. In that case, you are still meditating on the idea of time, not on divine light. So forget time, just meditate. So that's why Gopal Krishna is meditating on and off. Whenever I call him, he'll be in meditation. And when he does not pick up the phone, I ask him, why did you pick up the phone? I was in meditation. Now you cannot answer, you cannot argue. You have to nod your head in meditation. Bharat, ನೀನು ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯ?
2 times a day.
2 times ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯಾ? ನೋಡು, ಒಂದು ಸತಿ ಊಟ ಸಾಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ, 2 ಸತಿ 3 ಸತಿ 4 ಸತಿ ಬೇಕು ಊಟ. ಹಾಂ, remember one thing, it is not just about the meditation, it's about digesting what you get in meditation, imbibing and making it part of yourself. That is the entire process of meditation. Meditation is not just about closing your eyes for half an hour, 45 minutes. No. Meditation is that a particular condition is got that needs to be broken down, enlivened, digested, imbibed, absorbed. Then it should become part of ourselves and lead to change in ourselves. When this entire process is completed, you say that one cycle of meditation is completed. So look at the meditation as a cycle, not as an activity. Right. So many people meditate many times without necessarily digesting and absorbing, assimilating what has been given to them. So it's like this: if you have eaten the food, first you should digest what you have eaten, and then you are ready to eat the next course. If you have not digested the previous course of food, you will actually not feel hungry. Do you think that you will eat well? If you have not digested the previous course of food, you will feel that it's too much. You cannot take it, right? So likewise, what happens is, of course, I'll tell you one other aspect of the dynamic of this. What if you do meditation regularly? Of course, you're practicing meditation. Your consciousness is now getting used to the depth of consciousness. Your mind is getting used to the depth of the consciousness. That is what happens. So when you practice regularly, you are able to go to a certain depth of consciousness faster. Okay, it's like learning a driving the car. Each time you pick up certain nuances. So session after session, it becomes easier to drive. Likewise, session after session, it becomes easier for us to go to different depths of consciousness. But remember, it is not just about going through different depths of consciousness in meditation. It's about going to a different depth, certain work occurring in that particular depth of consciousness, gaining mastery over that realm of consciousness, and then moving to the next depth. That is what meditation is all about. So meditation is not all about just going straight down. No, you go to a certain extent. It's like something like this. You are digging a well. When you are digging the well, you dig all the mud. But then before you go on to the next level of digging, you have to remove all the mud. Right? Without removing the mud, you will not be able to go to the next level. That's exactly what happens. So you go to a certain depth of consciousness, you remove all the set of samskaras there, unfold the conditions there. You gain certain degree of mastery over the conditions there, then move to the next level. So meditation, digging of the consciousness by the mind is very similar to digging of a well by us. So in the end, as we go to the source of the water, you will start seeing that it's more moist. You can feel that coolness in the mud itself. Then you know that you are now closer to the source of water. Likewise, as you go closer and closer to reality, you can feel the breeze of the reality. You can feel that vividness of that. Then you know that now you are at close to the result that you are looking for. Okay. Now, once you have tapped into the water, not only you have access to water, you also have enough water to be able to distribute it to everyone else. Right? Likewise, once you have tapped into the reality, not only you have access to reality, you also can actually distribute it to other people also. Get them also how to go about digging towards the reality. That's exactly what you will do. Okay? That's why there is this song, no? Shishnunara Sharifa. They say, I don't know, people would have heard this song. ತರವಲ್ಲ ತಗಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತಂಬೂರಿ ಸ್ವರ ಬರದೆ ಬಾರಿಸದಿರು ತಂಬೂರಿ. ಬರಿದೆ ಬಾರಿಸದಿರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಿ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನಾಟ್ ಟಚ್ ದ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಬಟ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಪ್ರೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ. ಸೊ ಈಸ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಸಾಂಗ್. ತರವಲ್ಲ ತಗಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತಂಬೂರಿ ಸ್ವರ means your tambura is not in tune. Why is it not in tune? Because you have actually not reached the reality about which you are preaching. When you have reached the reality that you are actually preaching about, then the tambura will automatically be in tune with nature, in tune with the divine, and then that penetrates everybody's heart. So when our tambura, this is the body is the tambura. When our tambura becomes in tune with the divine, with the reality, then whatever you speak, whatever you do, it actually touches the heart of people around you. That is what happens. So one of the common complaint that I get when I go to give talk is husband will complain. Gopal Krishna, what is it? Husband will complain. I keep telling my wife to meditate, but she does not listen to me. Wife will complain. I keep telling my husband to meditate, he does not listen to me. Then, in order not to create a husband-wife fight, I'll tell them if both of you are not listening to one another, that means your family is going on well. So you are in tune with nature, not in tune with the broader nature. You are in tune with your individual nature. That's okay. At least you are in tune with something, right? So, lesson for all the youngsters: you have to choose what nature you want to be in tune with. Okay. Shall I continue? 7-4. We shall finish in the next 4-5 minutes. But don't run with this idea. Um, I've been told that Babuji never meditated for more than 1 or 2 minutes at a time. I said. He could instantly plunge into his inner depths, said Daji. If that's all the time that you require, it's sufficient. If it takes you 1 hour, that's also good. So what if you don't achieve any depth at all, even in 1 hour? Save it for next time. So it did not happen today. Fine. Try again tomorrow. If you're really avid and you have some extra time, meditate a second time. But give yourself a little break. Take 15 minutes at least. Without this 15-minute break, meditation will create a slight negative effect. Underline that. So there are people who try to forcibly meditate for hours together. All that they'll end up doing is deranging their mind. So you should never force the meditation repeatedly. You should always give rest to the mind on and off. Okay? It is a restful mind that can actually take you to the depth of consciousness. If the mind has not rested, then it will be difficult to meditate. So Bharat is very happy. At last, he is allowing me to sleep properly. Because if you want to get a restful mind, you have to sleep. Now he'll next time when I talk about sleep, he'll say, "You only told me how important sleep is, so now don't disturb me." That is the reason when you meditate after a good session of sleep, you will have very good session of meditation. When you have had disturbed sleep, when you try to meditate, you will struggle. So the mind should be restful for a good session of meditation. Okay, that's why when people are ill, we ask them not to meditate. Because when people are ill, the mind is not in a very pleasant state. The mind will be impacted by the physical illness or the mental illness, either way. So they cannot meditate, they cannot be restful. Okay. What determines how quickly can we dive into the ourselves? I asked. It depends on the orientation of your awareness and the flexibility of your consciousness. Underline that. It depends on the orientation of awareness and the flexibility of your consciousness. Imagine that consciousness is a big circle. Its center is the core of your being, the ultimate source. The circumference represents our surface level awareness. Now underline. So consciousness is a big circle. The center of the circle is the source. The periphery is the awareness. It is our normal state of consciousness in which we interact with the world and the senses. So we use this field of consciousness to interact with the world. Usually our attention is unidirectional. It moves in one direction at a time. In meditation, it moves inwards to the core. In our daily activities, it tends to move outwards away from the center. It flows through the senses in the direction of the circumference. So, in when you are engrossed in the material activities, your attention is flowing outwards and downwards. When you are actually engrossed in spiritual activities, the attention is going inwards and upwards. Okay, one is outward and downward, other one is inward and upward. If your consciousness is nimble and flexible, it can easily switch directions. But if your consciousness is cumbersome, it is like a big cargo ship that requires four tugboats just to turn around. When we are accustomed to our external orientation, we tend to find it difficult to turn our awareness inwards. Then meditation takes a little longer. But with daily practice, with the help of transmission, we develop a nimble consciousness, a flexible consciousness. Now we can move in either direction at will. So this is one of the things that you will develop with the regular practice of meditation, more sessions of meditation. So you can switch the direction of the flow of the attention, outwards or inwards, outwards or inwards. That flexibility of changing the direction of the flow of the attention you will get by practice. That's what you will get by practice, not mastering all the conditions, because mastering all the conditions takes some time. Time is also a factor in it. You cannot be very impatient in meditation. Okay? So you have to be patient only, not my patient. You have to be patient with yourself. Okay. So we'll just read the last paragraph. I think 7, 9 now. Or shall we end it here? We have come to 101. So hooray. We have hit a century. Okay. Any questions? We'll continue from however.